Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Read Me Live. I am your host, Sharifah Hardie, and we just finished an incredible show where I learned so much. You want to check that out? We spoke to intuitive massage. Trayvon Towner of Body Sapiens was our last guest, and today we're going to speak to Kristin Dore about what she does at Eden Biofeedback. Good afternoon, Kristin. How are you?
Hello, thank you. I'm well. And thank you so much for having me on the show today. I was so excited for the tarot reading. I'm just like, yay.
Have you had a tarot reading before?
So I was thinking about it when I was maybe in high school or my early 20s, around the probably Halloween or something, there was a tarot reader set up in the bulk section of the grocery where I went. And I did have a reading. It was just a 3-card little spread.
Yes.
And it was really cool. And I don't know that I've had a reading since, but some of my friends read tarot and they'll tell me about it. And I'm always so interested. And I'm like, why have I not done this?
Wow. That's the only question I really ask everyone is, have you had this before? And one of the reasons that I ask that question is because obviously, like most jobs, people do things in different ways, right? And I'm a 3rd-generation reader. My mom, who taught me how to read, she was like, Sharifah, even to this day, I did a live with her last week. And so that was an incredible show. But my mom says, Sharifah, you do a do-it-yourself reading. And I was like, what is a do-it-yourself reading? Is because one of the things that I want to do is demystify this whole idea of psychics and tarot readers, right? Because we're all psychic. We all have natural intuition. We all may walk into a dark alley and be like, I don't know if I want to go in there. There's something in our spirit that calls to us. And to me, that's the Holy Spirit. That's God, speaking to us. So what I do in order to remove the veil of secrecy is to show everyone the cards. And a lot of readers, that's like one main thing that they don't do is they won't give you the card. And I'm like, no, go Google it, go research it. Because when I do a reading, I ask God, I ask Holy Spirit for signs and symbols that I understand. Right. But maybe that symbol or that sign meant something to you, Kristin. Maybe there was something else that if I didn't show you the card, or maybe you connect with it in a different way. So I just want to make absolutely sure that everyone receives the signs and the symbols that they are meant to receive. And I love doing it. My mom told me 20 years ago that I should do it. And I was like, I am not sitting in no grocery store turning over cards for the people on Halloween.
Yeah.
The people might laugh at me.
Well, it was definitely unusual, but I mean, I was excited to try it, but it was different.
Yes. But there are 78 cards and I've studied the cards. So now, 20 years later from when my mom told me to do it, I'm like, this is what I want to do because I want to be of service to people. I was in politics. I don't like the energy of politics now. And I'm like, I'm not actually doing anybody any good. So let me go do people good. And I've studied the cards. So if, my belief, like I say in the description, is that the 10 cards that I pick up are the 10 cards that Kristin needed to receive today. That was the message that she needed to hear today. But right now, all I'm doing is sitting here shuffling the cards, tapping into the energy, because shuffling the cards is my sign to spirit, number one, that I'm about to do a reading. It's also a way for me to clear the energy of the past person that I've read for and just make sure that I'm connecting to you and what Kristin needs to know. So before we get into all of that, I'm curious about you. What is Eden Biofeedback?
Sure. So there's a lot under the term of biofeedback, the same way there's a lot under the term chiropractic. But I use a computer-assisted device for the biofeedback service that I perform. And what it does is it reads the energy of your body to see where things are out of balance. And it's FDA approved for stress reduction and pain management. And so what it can do is figure out where there's signs of stress within your body, and it'll be different for everyone. Some people, when they get stressed out, they get a headache. Other people might get a stomach ache. Some people get really grouchy. Some people eat more. Some people drink more. Everyone deals with it differently. So this device will determine for you what has been stressful now or in the past and give me information about that I can share. And then it can reset or retrain the way your body identifies stresses going forward and the way it responds to them. So the same things might happen in the world, like you get a stressful email, your day isn't going the way you want. You look at your phone and your kid's school is calling. Those things that might be a micro stress or might give you a trigger. But instead of getting triggered by them, you're like the energy of your body can stay more balanced. So it's like tuning out the static in your system, and it can kind of just let you use your whole brain to solve problems instead of getting stressed by things. So usually my clients report improvements in pain, improvements in like cognitive function, just like because stress is so damaging to that, better sleep. A lot of them do lose weight or pick up healthier habits. And like stress reduction doesn't always sound like that much, but the Mayo Clinic has found up to 90% of disease is caused by stress. And when we're thinking about disease, though, I don't want to think about like a cold so much as it's just dis-ease or discomfort throughout our system. But I tried a session a while back because I was just kind of feeling stuck. Like I had a great job. My kids were doing well. I was dating the man I'm married to now. I didn't like have any problems, but I just was depressed, stuck, not feeling great. And I had such a profound result. I wanted to learn more about it. So I ended up buying a device and getting certified and just kind of doing it as a hobby until I opened my own business.
And so your own business is Eden Biofeedback.
That's correct. It's just me. I'm the whole business. I mean, unless you want to count, I also have 3 tiny friendly dogs who accompany me, and they're scattered around the room right now. But yeah, unless you want to count the girls, it's just me.
That's beautiful. It's just you and the Holy Spirit. God is around you, surrounding you, making things happen. So, I'm going to ask a question that I think maybe other people are wondering. Does this machine hurt?
It doesn't hurt. And I think when you mentioned the Holy Spirit, that was a great way to put it, because it restores your body back to balance or kind of back the way it was intended to be. But it doesn't hurt. There's little wrist and ankle bands that are Velcro, and they just go on. And I would say at least 2/3 of the people sleep through the session. So yeah, some people do observe things. You're probably more sensitive and aware of your body. So you might notice different sensations. Some people feel tinglings or this or that. Some people notice their digestion begin to kick in, their stomach gurgle or something. And so as someone who's probably more sensitive, you might observe more things, but nothing unpleasant happens. Yeah, there's no shocks or pinpricks. I don't use needles, and I'm not working hands-on with your body because it's working on like the energy of your body. And when we're talking about energy, sometimes you think about energy work as like on the intuitive side, and mine is more on like the physical side, like the atoms of our body and how when they vibrate at specific frequencies, they pass messages from your brain throughout your system. And so a lot of times, I would say about half my clients are not open to Western medicine. And so they really like this as kind of an alternative way to manage their health. And then the other half are very much Western medicine consumers who like the FDA approval and like the benefits of biofeedback. So I kind of serve 2 different populations. And I really like having that variety in my day.
I love that. And Kristin, I'm about to cry right now because I was telling my last guest, because he said something and he was like, and it just so happened. And I said, you know what, me personally, whenever I say or I hear it just so happens, I know that was God, that was divine, the way it's set up. And he's an intuitive massage. He does massages that, he picks up the information as far as where he needs to go in the body intuitively. And then you're talking about intuition is just like 2 guests. And he was talking about what he wants to learn. I said, well, many people would consider that alternative medicine or holistic medicine. And then now our second guest of the day is talking about holistic and alternative ways to be able to heal the human body. Because I believe that. I tell people all the time when they ask me certain things, I'm probably not the right person to ask, because I don't believe in illness. I don't believe in disease. I believe that stress is at the root of any illness. And that if you listen to what the body is trying to tell you, the signs, the symptoms that it gives you, then you can alleviate that disease. But if you don't listen to what it's trying to tell you, then it gets progressively worse and progressively louder.
Well, it does. And I think a great example I like to share with my clients about the tie between stress and disease is like cold sores.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the kind of person who's ever had a cold sore, the virus is always in your body somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have a cold sore 365 days of the year.
Right.
So what happened to weaken your immune system to make it more vulnerable to getting a cold sore?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just an example of like, yeah, so what happened to weaken your immune system so that then, you know, you have more pain, you're more susceptible to getting a cold or, you know, the flu or whatever it is. So yeah, when we can kind of to get back to balance and just have our body work the way it's designed to, that's fantastic. And I was thinking about your earlier guest when you mentioned him, because I see an intuitive massage therapist too. And like I had an issue with my hip and she said there was really some stuck emotions within the muscle more than it was just the muscle. And so she was able to kind of move that as well as the other discomfort. And I only do biofeedback. And so I have kind of a wide stable of people who I refer to if people need more than biofeedback, because I also think nothing helps everything. Right. No one methodology would improve all conditions. So I love being able to share and say, you know, maybe you need fascial release. Maybe you need massage. Maybe you need some chiropractic care. Maybe you need a naturopath.
Maybe you need a good reading with Sharifah.
Maybe you need a reading. Exactly. You never know what can be the right thing for you.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you're open to different ways of making referrals. But I want to go back to what you said about the cold sore, right? That to me, in your example, is finding the root cause, right? If it's already there, like you said, what happened? Because the body is just trying to give you a sign. It's just trying to give you a symbol, a symptom. Are you listening?
Yeah.
Are you listening to your body? Do you find that what you do is becoming more and more acceptable?
Absolutely. Yeah. If we were in Europe where this device was created, it would be a lot more widely accepted or known as far as the service goes. But in popular culture, there's been more instances of biofeedback. In the documentary Quarterback, I guess Kirk Cousins uses it. The Kardashians have used it on their show. So at certain like levels, it's more acceptable or just more well known. And I get a fair amount of new business from my website. So people are searching it that way. And I feel like biofeedback is probably where like acupuncture or chiropractic might have been when we were growing up, where it just wasn't as well known. And like, I know like my mom worked for a chiropractor when I was a kid, and people would say, well, that's not a real doctor. You know, their license came from a Cracker Jack box, you know, stuff like that. And now chiropractic is very widely accepted, you know, medicine and treatment for things. And it's sort of the same with acupuncture. So I think I'm just kind of on the beginning edge of this. So what I really try to focus on is if I'm not working with the client, I want to be networking to just grow awareness of what biofeedback is and how it can be useful for people. So whether you work with me or not, there's just more awareness of it is kind of what I try to do. So I love, like, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity.
I'm grateful to have you here because one of the reasons I've been, like I said, you know, and I get to tend to be redundant, is I've been doing this for years, and I believe in divine perfect timing and divine perfect order. And so when I went to and I decided I really want to do readings, I wanted to do them live because I want to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. I love to learn and I love to teach. So if I'm getting all this information from Kristin and she's telling me about biofeedback and she's telling me about the body and anatomy and stress and illness, I want everyone to learn because I'm naturally nosy. That's what I tell people all the time. Like, I'm nosy. I love to ask questions, but maybe somebody else had a question. Maybe they had a question that, you know, I didn't have. Like I said, the last person that I read for, Trayvon, you know, I'm doing the reading and somebody in the audience, his first card was the death card, which I love, nothing to fear. And I told him, and I tell people, to me, the death card is one of the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cards in the deck, because for me, it's my sign of the butterfly. And you cannot become the butterfly without being the caterpillar. So this death stands on the death tarot card is about transformation. Right? So you have to transform in order to become the person that you want to be. And someone in the comments said the death card is the Scorpio energy. And I was like, you know what? That's right. Because Scorpio is always about death and rebirth. It continues to die in order to be born again. So it's about all of us learning together, which is another reason, like I said, why I give people the cards that I pull, because maybe you want to research it and maybe there's a meaning, because it's only, couple of minutes, 20 minutes that I can give to one person at a time. So maybe there's so much more information that person was meant to hear. So I think this is beautiful. I think what you're doing is beautiful, but I believe, and I'm not exactly sure, but I'm gonna go with, I believe that I had some kind of test like that, like a biofeedback, because I do have a friend who does holistic alternative medicine. I remember she hooked me up to a machine. It read a whole bunch of things. Salam to League TV for joining us. But this is my question for you, Kristin. After she did all the testing, this is what she said, and I'm not saying she was wrong. I don't care. She was beautiful. But I want your thoughts and your feedback on this. The machine came back and it said, out of everything, it said that I had a high fight and flight. Like, it was like, basically, I was in a constant level of fight or flight. And what she did was she explained to me exactly what fight or flight was. And I'm listening to her, who's the professional. And in my head, I'm going, okay, I know, I know what fight or flight means. Yeah. I live in Long Beach, California, in the heart of downtown Long Beach. There's crime, there's everything, I'm in this constant, like, oh my God, like, what's going to happen? But to me, I felt like there was no, okay, how do I get out of this? Do you provide that type of feedback, or, you just send the people out there, like, your body says it's sick. Thank you. God bless you. Good day.
Yeah. So I do with biofeedback. The bio part is like reading your body's energy to determine what's going out of balance. And the feedback, it actually sends corrected frequencies to reset or retrain your body. So a lot of my clients do feel like, or have been told that they are constantly in a fight or flight, and that their body's like adrenal system is functioning on overload, or is getting worn out, from being in that constant stress state. And so the feedback portion, that's kind of what it does. And so that's what I try to do, is get people back to balance, back to that parasympathetic state, so that your body can respond to things and then go back to a balance.
Okay, so how do I get out of? See, I kind of know the answer, because the answer, I think, was move, like, get out of that environment. So, but aside from that, because I moved to a different location, now I'm living on a cul-de-sac. I don't have a lot of people hanging out, so I can sleep better, because there was also a fear that these people are going to break in and rob me or do something to me. So it was hard for me to sleep. They played loud music in the neighborhood. So I was constantly awakened by noise and fear. So now that I've moved, I'm a lot calmer. But can you just look at a feedback from your system and be like, okay, the system says move?
Well, I'm going to give you a tip in a minute. But I'm going to tell you, I really empathize with your situation. A lot of people know this about me. It's not a secret. My family is a victim of crime family. My cousin was murdered randomly in 2019, just sitting in his car in a good neighborhood in Minneapolis, without doing anything, sitting in his car waiting for a friend. 2 youths approached the car and just shot him. And so that crime piece of it, and like that fear around that resonates deeply with me, because of, what my family's been through. And then it ended up one of the two perpetrators wasn't punished at all. The county attorney just let him completely go, because he was 2 days or 5 days before his 16th birthday.
That's hard.
So there was just like, the system let us down too. And like, we had kind of emailed a little bit about politics, and that's one reason I've been encouraged to go into some local politics, because that, you don't realize how important voting can be, and how voting for someone who doesn't agree with your values can deeply personally hurt you. But that's just a side thing. So your vagus nerve is a big part of your fight or flight and stress response system. And it goes from your brain kind of throughout your whole body. And it's a two-way system where your brain can send messages to like your intestines. Your intestines can send messages back to your brain. And getting that calmed down is a huge piece of stress reduction and of having your body function optimally. Because like you can't sleep well, you don't digest food well, because the fight piece and the fight or flight is the opposite of rest and digest, which is where we want to be. And so I know you're shuffling right now, but if you can put down the cards for a sec, I can show you a trick.
I need tricks.
You want to take all the fingers on the hand you write with. So I'm right-handed. You want to wrap them around your opposite thumb so you cover the nail. And then that's the whole thing. And when you do that, it starts to calm your body down. It starts to calm down that vagus nerve. And if you hold that even for, a few moments, like I start to feel my shoulders relax, I start to feel myself reset. And so doing this, it doesn't look weird. So like all the students I work with do it if they're stressed out at school or before having to speak in public. People do it to help them sleep. You do it and you can just hold your thumb at the dentist, anywhere that you are. And some people who are really anxious will do that for a while. And then they'll be like, well, I just couldn't do it. So then I went to my finger. That's okay too. Actually, each of them has a slightly different response in our nervous system. But it works on a number of different principles. But that's a really kind of a quick and dirty shortcut to helping your whole system start to calm down if you feel that you are stressed out or in a bad situation. So particularly like if it's nighttime and you're just trying to sleep and there's like loud music or something, or you're just trying to sleep because you're having trouble sleeping, it's a great way to just reset a little bit.
Okay, what's a great way to reset a lot, right? How do you can you completely get out of this whole fight or flight? I mean, because a lot of times I think, I know we're a victim of our environment, meaning that people who, I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and we were talking about how people who live in the mountains, if they went to the city, they would be surprised, like, oh my God, you don't have mountains, but whatever our environment is, we always think that that's how we have to be. And we don't realize that we've really been created by our environment. Another example is like, you hear people say this all the time. They won't say it in a minute. They will say in a New York minute. Like a New York minute, I think is 60 seconds, the same as a regular minute. But because it's a New York minute, there's this like, okay, it has to happen fast. But it's our environment that teaches us that we have to respond a certain way. Maybe somebody who is used to a lot of things happening is always on high alert. So how can you untrain yourself over time to not be on such high alert?
Well, but I mean, part of it is our fight or flight system is designed to help us because it's designed to learn things that are dangerous so that we know in the future.
Okay.
When it's triggered too much, it just thinks everything is dangerous. And like, I mean, I use biofeedback for it, but there are other ways. There's a book and I think it's called What My Body Knows. And it was written by a woman with what's called CPTSD, which is like chronic PTSD, where like if I'm driving down the street and I see a McDonald's and then I'm in a car accident, maybe the next time I'm driving and I see a McDonald's, I'm like, ooh, I'm a little bit triggered, but driving nowhere else bothers me.
Right.
Because that's a one-time thing. But if you were like raised in an abusive household, right, and on any given day, something bad could happen and you could be looking at, a fork on the table. You could be looking out the window and see a red car. All of those things get set up in your system then as something dangerous that's going to be a trigger for you. And a lot of those triggers we have are unconscious. And so if you have like that many triggers, there are things you can do. But it would probably involve like maybe somatic healing, which is where it can kind of, heal you through movement in a bit. There's different forms of yoga that can be helpful for resetting stuff like that. Some people really benefit from trying to talk things out in therapy. I wasn't really one of those people. But I mean, to really gain a handle on that, I think you'd want to try different modalities. And honestly, like the intuitive massage might also be useful, where you're like, I carry so much tension in my shoulders, for example. Can you, work on it at massage, but also work on whatever's underneath it. I know a woman and she does massage and facials. She's an esthetician and massage therapist, but she also does Reiki.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
kind of get like a Reiki facial when you get it. And so you kind of leave like your face looks amazing, but then your whole self is better somehow.
Yes. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I know that well. I can do Reiki, but I think sometimes that it's just knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
So even when you get the feedback, so it was even my friend who gave me the information that I was in a constant state of fight and flight, just the knowledge and the information that I tend to be in a state of fight or flight was able to get me to start doing things different. It was able to get me to breathe. It was able to, I focused more on meditation because I had to really tell my soul, my spirit, my body that it's okay, that I don't have to put these walls up to protect me from, just stay on a high alert, that I could put my guard down and just be okay with who I am and where I am and really just start breathing. But had she not told me that I was in a constant state of fight and flight and given me that feedback, I would have had no idea.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you. I think that, you kind of already said this, but knowledge is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And sharing the information and then letting you interpret it.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the cards, instead of you being like, Kristin, this means this.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kristin, this can mean
Mm-hmm.
this, but what is it, how does it hit you or how does it resonate with you?
Right. You must have been watching my videos, Kristin, because I say that at the end of every reading, every card, like it just comes up. Does that resonate with you? Does that resonate with you? Because this is my sign. This is my symbol. If you may go to a different reader and that sign means something completely different. So I've studied it for years, and just like it's a language, just like the English language is made up of letters that make up words, that make up sentences, that make up paragraphs, that make up the story. Reading is the same thing. It's a story. And so if and I loved in high school Greek mythology. I just could relate to the stories. Even before I really began with the cards, I could relate to Greek mythology. But you kind of have to find what a person relates to. So I always use this example in trying to explain the cards. Is for me, is spirit trying to say this is the story. So sometimes I get message in movies, sometimes I get messages in songs. But even without that message, I can tell anyone in America, let me tell you the story of Little Red Riding Hood, right? Almost everybody knows the story of Little Red Riding Hood. It's the same across the board. Little Red Riding Hood was walking down the path. During the course of the path, she met the wolf, and the wolf was hiding as grandma. And then at the end of the day, the woodsman came and saved Little Red Riding Hood from the wolf hiding as grandma. But the key in that story is, if I'm being shown the story, what part of the story am I being shown? What is spirit showing me? So are they showing me when she just starts off on the path? That, to me, the way I interpret it, maybe not the way Kristin interprets it, is that this journey that you're on, you're just at the beginning. Right? So you haven't even met the wolf. You haven't even gotten to grandma's house. You haven't been saved. So that tells me that you have some adventures that you're about to go on. Okay, maybe they're showing me the wolf dressed as grandma in the bed. That tells me that you already gotten to the wolf. You've already gotten to this, so it's about interpretation. Another reason, especially doing readings now, I tell people, because people tell me all the time, I was discussing this with Trayvon after the show, because everybody stays after the show. They're like, can you tell me anything else that didn't come up live? Everybody does it. And I always tell him one thing is I don't have an ego when I read, because it's not about me. It's not about me being right or being wrong. This is about my interpretation of what happens. And that's why police officers say one of the most difficult things is for them to get eyewitness testimony, because an eyewitness may view the same exact crime, that same exact story, but Sharifah is going to focus on the fact that I'm paying attention to the car, the getaway car that they drove, where Kristin is like, let me describe the person to you. Let me just, people notice different things. So it's beautiful for me to be able to just say, this is the way I interpret it. And maybe something else stands out to you. Maybe something else you need to look into, something else you need to research. So it's just so beautiful that you get it. And I don't care. I told a lady, I did one of the readings that's live, and that's one reason I want to do them live, because if somebody's like, oh, that didn't happen, or you go to this one, watch that, and you'll see. And I got a message clearly and strongly for this lady. And usually when I get a clear message, it means obviously that the cards are all telling the same thing. And I said, this message is telling me that you need help. That teamwork makes the dream work. That's what you need. And she's like, I don't have a team. I said, you need a team. She's like, but I don't have a team. I said, I don't care about that. I don't care nothing about that. And like now, you know, as I get to be a seasoned reader and a seasoned woman, it's easy for me to say, you know, it's not about me being wrong. I'm just telling you what I perceive and what I pick up. And so I just love, and when I first started out, when I thought I was doing readings, I'd be like, Kristin, let me read for you. And then I just start turning over the cards, and the cards say it. And now I'm like, we're going to talk. I'm going to tap into your energy. I'm going to see what I need to know, and then allow the cards to confirm, you know, our conversation and what I picked up. So with that said, I've been shuffling, and I've been tuning in, tapping into your energy. I've asked the Holy Spirit to come through and speak to me in signs and symbols and words that I may understand, and to give Kristin the highest possible message that she can read right now for herself, her life, and see what comes out. So the first card that I have for you, Kristin, is the Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles. And I always encourage people to write it down. You can if you want to, but the Knight of Pentacles. So the first card is always your issue. That means in your theme of the journey through Kristin's life, your main issue that you're going through right now is the Knight of Pentacles. So Pentacles are about, people say it's about money, but I always like to be clear that it's not necessarily about money. Pentacles are the physical manifestation of whatever it is that you need. So in your business, you may be saying, okay, well, I really want to move. I want a better location. I want a new building. You may not necessarily get a check for that building, but somebody may say, hey, Kristin, I got this building. You know, I'm already paying $5,000 in rent. I love to sublease it. Can you come in and help me? But it's just about that manifestation coming in, right? So knights are about, back in the days of kings and queens, there's the page, there's the knight, there's the queen, and there's the king. The pages are messengers. The pages always delivers message from the king. The page's energy is always about 13 years old to 16 years old, whereas the knight is the age from 20 to 25. So this tells me from the Knight of Pentacles, what you're going through right now, especially with business, it's the thought process. Some things come out and they don't mean to insult, and I'm not saying you think like a kid, but to me, the Knight is always that college student who just graduated college and they know everything, right? And so you have to be an older person to realize that you don't know anything, right? So the Knight is always, he doesn't have a castle. The king has a castle. The king has gone out. He's fought his battles, and he's at a point where he can sit back, put his feet up, and send people to deliver a message. The Knight of Pentacles is always a quick moving energy. It's one of the slower energies because it's very grounded, right? This is not, the Knight of Pentacles is not somebody who's just like, I'm about to play the lottery and win big. This is about slow, methodical growth for you, your business, for what you're doing. But over time, you will see that it begins to grow because you are someone who has the ability to step up to those challenges. But this is a building card for me, of building businesses, building names, building foundation, because again, the Knight hasn't proven himself. If he proved himself, he'd have a castle. Okay. So that's what I see as the number one issue, because the next card that I have for you, which is a beautiful, beautiful omen, Kristin, is the Fool.
Oh.
Right? No, yeah. It's beautiful. I love it. One of my favorite in the deck, because the story of the tarot is called the Fool's Journey, and it's symbolic of life. And the reason tarot is called the Fool's Journey is because there's an expression that says God protects fools and infants. God protects fools and babies. And the reason God protects fools and babies is that those are the only two people on earth who don't think they know everything. If somebody thinks they know everything, if Kristin is like, I got this, I know everything about biofeedback, then you can't learn. There's nowhere for you to go. Again, the Fool with the energy of the Knight of Pentacles is about being open, like you're building, right? And if you're building something, you can't be like, I know everything. No, only God knows everything, right? So the other thing about the Fool, again, is that he is the one who starts out the Fool's journey. It's his journey, it's his life, it's your life, Kristin. Excuse me. So the 0 represents infinite possibilities. There are infinite possibilities on where you could grow, what you want to do, what direction you want to go in. So to me, that's beautiful, because I always think of 0 in the Fool is 0 with any of the Aces cards as the baby that is even before it's born, right? Once a baby is born, it's now tangible. It becomes one particular thing. It may become a doctor, it may become a lawyer, it may become a president, it may be the kid who always steals everybody's candy. We don't know who it is, but because it hasn't been born yet, it hasn't been created yet, there are infinite possibilities that it can become. So the Fool is about taking a leap of faith. Take a leap of faith. Step out there on faith on whatever it is that you're doing, because the Fool starts off the journey. It's the first lesson that the Fool learns on his journey. And the Fool's journey goes from the Fool to the world. And when we get to the world, which is completion, we go right back to the Fool. Right? We keep learning. Life is cyclical. We go from one journey to another. So this is saying, in this journey, this path that you're on, be open. Be open to change. Be open to grow. Be open to receive messages, because the next card, this is beautiful. Oh, I love reading for people. The next card that you have is the Empress. The Empress. So right now you have 2 out of 3 major arcana cards. Arcana means change. Right? So it means major changes. If you have more major arcana cards, that tells me, the way I interpret it, is that there are major shifts in this person's life. Minor arcana cards are minor life changes, right? And then you have the Court card. But minor changes are things that may affect you today. That means that you may be at the grocery store and some cute guy sees you and he's like, hey, let me give you a rose. And you're like, thank you for the rose, but I'm married. And it's a cute story. Maybe you'll be able to share it with the BFF, but it's not going to change the course of history. These lessons that are major arcana cards are major life lessons. These are things that change the course of history. These are your births. These are your deaths. These are your weddings. These are your divorces. These are things where life will no longer be the same. Major arcana. So your major arcana card is the Empress, right? So this is one, if not the only card in the deck out of 78 whose meaning has changed for me over time. The Empress is beautiful. One of the things that you see, and again, it's about signs and interpretation. You see that bird, right? That means that there's life in it. There's water. The water is flowing. It's beautiful blues, beautiful greens. The Empress, she's not worried. She's the Empress. What does she have to fear? Nothing, right? But many people consider it a card of pregnancy. People consider it because they're like, the Empress is like a pregnant lady giving new life. So this is a new life for you. But I didn't like this card. I was like, Anytime I got the Empress, I was like, I don't like that card, right? And I was doing a reading for my friend who's amazing. Shout out to Dawn Lane, who's a channel. And she was like, why don't you like that card? I said, because have you ever been a pregnant woman? Right? Especially when you have multiple kids. Like at first, the first trimester is new. The second trimester, you start feeling the little hands and the feet. You're like, oh my God, he's kicking. Everybody come look, feel the kicking. By the third trimester, you're like, could somebody come get this baby? If somebody doesn't come and get this baby out of me so I can go back to my life. To me, that was the Empress, the energy of the Empress. I'm an Aries. I'm very impatient. I want everything not only now, but I want it right now. So whenever I got the Empress, I was like, here we go, being a pregnant lady. So my friend Dawn was like, Sharifah, anytime I receive the Empress, that means it's time. It's time for the new life. It's time for the baby to be born. I was like, well, it needs to be, because it's been time. If you'd have asked me, I think yesterday is time. So the Empress to me symbolizes, and I've accepted that as my meaning, it symbolizes in your life, it's time for you to be whoever it is that you are meant to be. It's time for you to expand. It's time for you to grow. And it's time for you to have a new life, because the next card that you have is the 8 of Wands. The 8 of Wands, I got this for Trayvon. Again, I said you guys must be on the same message. They can give them the same wavelength. Out of all the cards, the Eight of Wands is one of my most favorite cards because, see, you can see, I'm trying to turn it, this light doesn't help, but there are 8 wands in the air, right? So that's a lazy card for me because, again, I don't like to do much work. I'm anti-work. So it's not about you having to do anything. The 8 wands are already in the air. They're already on their way to you. So all you have to do is be open to receive the messages that come to you, receive the blessings that come to you, receive the clients that come to you, receive the growth that you have. But the 8 of wands, 8 is a symbol for in numerology, the card of abundance. But it's the wands are about movement. It's about action. Especially 8 wands is beautiful, especially as far as career, right? Because the 8 wands are on their way. The only slight challenge is to be discerning. This is about taking a look at the 8 opportunities that come to you. So they say opportunity knocks. It's up to you to answer. Yes, that opportunity is going to knock, but you have to decide if that opportunity is right for you. Does this work for Kristin? This is intuition, tapping into who you are, what you need, and what you believe when you receive the opportunities that are presented to you. Because the next card that you received is the 10 of Swords. 10 of Swords. Swords are thought, swords are idea, and swords, 10, I always think of the minor arcana as a scale. We've all received that customer service email from a business that says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate our service? Is 10 being excellent, 1 being you need to fire some people and hire some new people because I don't like what you're doing. So 10 is the same thing numerology. In numerology, it's a sign of completion, that you've completed this. But see, the 10 of Swords is a card of being over dramatic, right? Because if you look at it, and I don't know if you can see it, but there are literally 10 swords in this person who's laid on the ground dead. So what this is saying is, does it really need 10 swords? Do you really need 10 swords to kill someone? Like, you could have just done it with 1, maybe 2. You know, this is about overkill. This is about sometimes, and swords are about our fears, our thoughts. So this, whatever, if there were any fears, let those go, let those die. Don't keep bringing those back, going over the same situation. You ever have those people who want to tell you a story about, especially people who stay in relationships, and they tell you the same story, and you be like, okay, when are you gonna let that go? Like, let that go, because because you're not even changing the story. You still in the story. At least tell me how you won. Tell me the part where you overcame this battle, right? Because you just keep going on and on about the same story that's already over, it's already dead, it's already gone. So let that energy go. Because the next card that you have is the Page of Pentacles. Pages are messengers. Pages deliver messages, which again, I was seeing for you because it's pentacles. It's the physical manifestation of what you need. And he's not holding 10 pentacles. He has 1 good pentacle. And so for me, whenever I get the Page of Pentacles, I always equate that to seed money, right? This is not the I won the lottery card. This is about investing in your business. I used the example the other day. I don't know if you use ChatGPT. ChatGPT is $20 a month, but the investment in ChatGPT is going to pay off in dividends to come. Maybe there's something that you really want. Okay, well, if you get the seed money to be able to do what you want to do, then you will be successful. So the pages always deliver the message that you will receive money. Now, it's not going to come by a little, somebody delivering you the message. In today's day, it could come in an email. It could come in a text. You could get a phone call out the blue where somebody is talking to you. You're like, you know what? I got a couple of dollars. You know what I mean? But it's about messages of usually small amounts of money that can have a big impact, because the next card that you have is the 8 of Swords. The 8 of Swords. And what you see in this picture is this person is blindfolded and they're surrounded by 8 swords, which again, swords are thought. They're surrounded by the thoughts. Now, one of the things that I see whenever I receive the 8 of Swords is the 8 of Swords is my damned if I do, damned if I don't card, right? But the whole message, and the reason why I call it the damned if I do, damned if I don't, is because this person is just standing there. She can get out. Her hands are not cups. She can take the blindfold off if she wanted to. So the fact that you have the 8 of swords or the 10 of swords tells me that there's some decision that has to be made. Sometimes we don't want to cut off or make changes because, again, we're stuck in that story. We're stuck in where we are. And so it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, because sometimes we do have to make changes. Sometimes we do have to cut people off. And it's not easy always for us to change. Sometimes that changes us quitting our day job, right? We have to be able to step out there in faith and do what has to be done. And it may hurt. It may hurt financially. It may hurt spiritually for us to make that change. But the key is you cannot stay in inaction. You cannot stay between the swords forever, ever. You cannot stay in without making some type of choice. You have to make a choice. It's not even an option. You have to make a choice in order to move forward. So make the choice, pray on it, and take the leap of faith, because the next card that you have is the 10 of Cups. The 10 of Cups is about fulfillment. It's the happily ever after card. You see the family, you see the 10 cups, everybody's looking up. You see the baby, you see the light, you see the water. 10 again, you got 2 10s, which tells me this is about completion. But in numerology, anytime you have any numbers, you have to break them down to their lowest possible number. So 10 becomes 1 plus 0, which is 1. So again, we're going back to the beginning of that journey. As soon as we reach any type of level, we have to go back to the beginning. And then back to the beginning, what we understand is that we are one with God. We are one with the Holy Spirit. We are one with the universe. And so we have to do what is for our highest good. But there's a sense of happiness and joy and family that where you can look and say, you know what, is really good times. Because the next card that you have is the 3 of Cups. The 3 of Cups. And cups being love, cups being emotions is beautiful because, see, the Ace of Cups is about self-love. When you fall in love with yourself, it goes out into the world. And because you're so in love with yourself, you go into the 2 of Cups. The 2 of Cups is about partnership. It's about that love. When you look at somebody, you're just like, oh my God, I love them. That's the energy of the 2 of Cups. So the 3 of Cups is always, that's symbolic for me of the song that we all learned. I know you learned it, Kristin. Don't act like you didn't. When we was little kids, when they say first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes baby and a baby carriage. So the 3 of Cups is always about that love that's bigger than us, greater than us, not just about me, not just about my partner. This is about humanity. This is about the common good. These are your marriages. These are the times when we all celebrate, our love, standing at the altar. That's the energy of the 3 of Cups. It's about everyone gathering to support that love. So that's a really good sign that this is about growth. But 5s are always the challenge, right? It's always the halfway point on a scale, right? So you look at the numbers, the 3 is prior to the 5. So there may be challenges ahead, but just know and trust that you are loved, you are protected, and that all is well. So the next card that I had, so I did 9 cards. Right. So I did a 10 card spread. In the 9 cards, we started with the issue, some things surrounding you, what I feel, what I picked up. So the 10th card is always the final outcome. And in all my readings, I don't tell, people specifically this position stands for this. Blah, blah, blah. That's sometimes you understand with what you're doing. Sometimes that's too much information for people and it's overwhelming. But I always give them the final outcome because it's at the end of the day, what is it Kristin need to know? What does she need to know to learn for her highest good? And the final outcome, which I have for you, is beautiful. It is the Hierophant. The Hierophant. Hierophant. I repronounced the word. And I said this on the last reading with Trayvon, who I forgot what it ended with, but it was a minor arcana card. And I tell people all the time, for me, I tend to prefer when readings end on a minor arcana card, because that tells me that there's not a major life lesson that they're going into, that they're moving forward, right? So on a blueprint and in a map, the 10 of Cups is this is where you're going, right? So the fact that you had the Hierophant, which is a major arcana card, tells me the Hierophant is about spiritual truths. Spiritual truths. That's the lesson that the Hierophant learns. What is true for Kristin? What does Kristin believe? Because this is a card that's symbolic of when we wake up to understanding that our beliefs may not necessarily be the same as our parents. It may not be the same as our community. That's for people who maybe you have people around you and go, Kristin, what the heck is a biofeedback? We don't just go to the doctor, just get you an aspirin. We don't know, we don't believe, we don't know anything about no biofeedback, right, Kristin? Like, what are you smoking, right? People say certain things, but this is not about what's true for absolute anybody else. This is a card of somebody who may have been raised Muslim, because that's what their parents are. And then at 21, they decide that they're a Buddhist or Catholic, because this is not about what's true for anyone else. This is about what is true for you. So based on the cards and what I would recommend in order to get you, further down your path is to really meditate and think about what's true for Kristin. What does Kristin believe? Where do you see your business going? Where do you see your life going? Because it has to be about what's true for you and not what's true for absolutely anyone else. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that reading resonate with you?
I mean, yeah, a lot of it really does. And I've only been in business about 3 years.
Okay.
And so I have, I don't have a 20-year track record.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so I think being open, still learning those lessons, thinking of it as like that student or rather than like the king of it, really makes a lot of sense. And I mean, some of this stuff too, just like personally, my husband and I have been building a new house and it's almost a year behind schedule. And now we sold our house and we have to move out on Friday and we don't have a house to live in. So there's just like a lot of other changes too that I can kind of see that would be really big changes when they kind of come together on that piece as well. And I think I'm just like looking back at my notes here, I'm like, even on the spiritual truth, I recently took some classes kind of in some other thought processes or beliefs. And some of them are somewhat to do with intuition. And then some of them are just more, not quite a religion, but a different worldview, like you were saying. And, I still kind of haven't processed how I feel about all that. And I think, some of it I don't know that I believe in. And then it makes me feel kind of bad that like, oh, I did all this learning, but I'm just not really believing it. But I think it's really empowering to hear you say that, because maybe it's not the truth for me or the truth that I need versus someone else's, what someone else needs for their truth. So I think I'll kind of take that on board as I'm contemplating that learning as well.
I think that's beautiful. And not to keep going back to Trayvon, but I always refer back to the previous readings. League TV is amazing. He's a dear friend of mine, Salim Amir Bey. He's watching. He said salam, but he was the first show that I did. And then I had to keep telling people, oh, when I was on his show, he was his show, whatever. So Trayvon's show stands out to me, not just because he was right prior to you, but I could see different synchronicities. After the show, he kind of asked the question, did anything, kind of come through to you that you didn't necessarily maybe want to share with everyone? And I thought about it and I was like, no, not really, because nothing else really came through. But when I'm listening to you, basically, and I told him, I was like, because sometimes I do hear things, sometimes I do pick up things. Like, you got to kind of watch some of these shows on some of the things I pick up. But when you were talking to me, I clearly heard the word trust, like trust. And then I heard trust the process. So everything that you were saying was confirmation and it made sense. So what I would say to you really is trust. Trust the process. Really trust that everything happens in divine perfect timing and divine perfect order. So some things that we may see as delays are just confirmation when you see how they work out, because there's obviously even, I believe for you, they're going to work out. You've seen them work out. You've seen things happen. So really just trust the process and what you're going through, because these are the things that teach you what is true for you. Has you not read those things that you said, you know what? I don't believe that. I'm not going to accept that. Right? Now, another reason why I started doing my readings the way I do is because people had told me, because I was like, I want to do more readings. And they said, well, you could go to YouTube and you could be one of those faceless people that just show their hands. Or you can just do a YouTube channel where you just do readings for people. And I thought about it. No judgment against anybody. I love it. You know, shout out to Butch Terrell. Butch Terrell is one of my favorite readers. I'm trying to get him on the show. I don't think he's going to come on my show. I don't have it. He has like thousands and thousands of followers. I think I have like 2. So if you're watching, subscribe, share, you know, share this show for Kristin. But I love the fact, because I always say that for me, the biggest red flag where I advise people to run from any reader is when the reader says, the cards say, the cards say, the cards say. The cards don't say anything. The cards confirm what you know, what you feel. Cards are visual indicators. Like this card is the 10 of Cups. I mean, even if you never read a single tarot card in your life, doesn't it just look beautiful? Doesn't it look like the happily ever after card? So it's really just a visual representation. But most of the readers on YouTube would always say, this is a general reading. It may not resonate with you. And I was like, I don't want to do general readings. I'm very specific. I'm very personal. This is what we call my time. Again, I'm an Aries. I'm the infant of the universe. This is about me. So if I'm going to take my time, my energy, my resources to be able to provide something, I want to speak directly to someone. And then if ever, you know, League TV tunes into almost all of my shows. I see him there chatting, commenting, and he'll call me. He was the first guest. I love this story. And he was the first guest on my show. After, maybe he was on the Monday show. He calls me on Wednesday, and this was his words, not mine. He was like, I don't know what happened, but it just seems like something cracked open in me, like you cracked something open, open in me. And so I'm at the gym when I'm talking to Salim, and I was like listening, and all of a sudden I heard the song, Heaven is a Place on Earth. And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. Salim, they're playing Heaven is a Place on Earth. To me, that was confirmation. For me, the way I interpret it as a sign, like something may have cracked open for you, but heaven is a place on earth. You can really tap into whatever you want to tap into, not in a future date, but right here, right now. So when I receive these messages, I want to be able for everyone who's paying attention to receive them. And so clearly what I heard is just really just trust. Trust the process, and trust that over time you will know what's true for Kristin. And at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. And then you'll be able to use your biofeedback. And I see you expanding as well, because see, like you're doing a lot of referring. And I think that's wonderful and that's good. But I do believe there are other aspects that you will be, or you are able to tap into. Like you get intuitive messages, but you're like, okay, is that a message? Is that okay? Trust what you receive, trust what you feel, because you are very open. Again, that's the energy of the Fool, of somebody who's just really open to spirit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it does. And I think, I know we're at time here, but like my first marriage, I was married like 9 years, and then we adopted 2 kids. And then 6 months later, he left me because he changed his mind about being a dad. And there have been a lot of those like disappointments, where I think I got too independent and not trusting. Mm-hmm. And now I've been married just about 2 years. And I think like even like that happy family card really resonated, because I feel like I do have a happy family now, with my husband. And then, like I said, we adopted 3 dogs in the past year and a half. And that just feels like different, like very complete in a way. And so I think though that the trust piece has been difficult for me. I think I was a lot more trusting, but probably same with you. Before then you have to go through stuff.
Right.
It makes you, kind of only count on yourself.
Right. And that's the energy of the 10 of Swords. That's the energy of, I don't want those things to happen. I've been through it. Nothing to worry about. I don't see anything here to worry about. Again, trust. Just trust the process. Trust in divine perfect timing. Trust in divine perfect order. If and I'm a Pollyanna. I say that all the time to people, and I get on people's nerves, because I can find the upside, the bright side, the most positive aspect of everything. So it's horrible. That guy, your husband who left you after you get these beautiful kids, he walks off. But guess what? If he would have stayed there, you would have never met your current husband. You would have been in a situation and you wouldn't have gotten here. And so sometimes that's the biggest lesson, is just letting go of what was, in order to get to exactly where we're supposed to be. be. And I think that's the beauty of life, that you will eventually get to wherever it is you're supposed to be, but we just have to go through those lessons in order to get there. So I think it's beautiful. I think that I see a lot of growth for you. I see a lot of expansion for you, but it all stems down to you making a decision and deciding who you are, what you believe in, and what you want in your life. And then you become the empress. You get the Page of Pentacles, little bits of seed money that allow you to go on your journey. So I think it's beautiful. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Sharifah. I think it's a really inspiring reading, and I really, really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Well, we are coming down to the last few seconds of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching in the archives, and just give them a few final moments and let them know where they can find you.
Well, thank you so much. So I'm Kristin Derus Dore. My website is edenbiofeedback.com. I don't have social media, but if you want to see my dogs, they each have a social media. The first one is MTKA_minnow. The second one is MTKA_whisper. And the last one is MTKA_taffeta. So if you want to see some cute dogs on the internet, knock yourself out on the Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you. And your website?
EdenBiofeedback.com.
EdenBiofeedback.com. I love it. I want to thank you, Kristin, for being a guest on today's episode of Read Me Live. If you want your own reading or a private reading, you can be right there where Kristin is. Visit my website at readmelive.com. Until next time, everyone have a safe